Like, I don't party, I don't drink, I never drank, I didn't smoke. So for me, it was like a big shock. And I was like, this is weird. Like, this is not what I expected. But I still need something to do on Friday nights. So that entrepreneur side of my brain kicked in again. It was like, no, let's bring this party business back to college. Because that's all I knew. So I was like, okay. So I'm 17. I start knocking on the doors of all the clubs, venues, bars, restaurants, asking if I can host party here. And again, I'm not a party person. I don't drink. I don't smoke. But this was the only hustle that I knew. And, I just didn't know much else. So eventually I found a club that would work with me, and they didn't want to charge me anything. They would let me work on essentially a commission basis that they'll take a percentage of the revenue that I bring in. And I said, okay, it doesn't cost me any money because I didn't have a lot of money. I started hosting these parties, but I still knew that this was just a hobby, something I'm doing because I was bored on weekends. Then I started studying to go into medical school. And this is where things really shifted because I had some cash saved up in the bank. And now this is like the bottom of the 2008 crash because I was in high school when the 2008 crash happened. Around 2012 was when I was studying for the MCAT. So real estate prices are at rock bottom and the markets are still really shaky. And I'm starting to study for the MCAT and I am bored out of my mind trying to study for this because
Enjoy VIP travel with exclusive lounge access. Join the Hexagon Club now. RCBC, partners for your passion, partners through generations.
Wait, dito please. Yes.
Very passionate about it. And so during my breaks, I would read business books and I would go on the Yahoo Finance and I would study what's going on in the markets just for fun. And I kept hearing about how real estate is at rock bottom on the news. And the business books that I read always said that wealthy people invested in real estate. I had no idea what that meant. I didn't know any real estate investors. I didn't know what real estate investing was. I didn't have investor people in my family, so I didn't know what that meant. So I was like, well, if wealthy people invest in real estate, maybe I should invest in real estate. So I brought up the idea to my dad. I was like, Dad, I want to invest in real estate. He's like, shut up. You're stupid. Go study and become a doctor. You can worry about all this other stuff after you become a doctor. And I was like, okay. Now, I just want to say, I love my dad to death. My parents, this was just all they knew. They didn't have that financial education. But in the back of my mind, I'm always like, okay, what can I do? Maybe I don't got to tell my parents. I'll just do something else. I had a little bit of cash saved up in the bank from the party business that I was running. So I started looking at rental properties to buy. And I found this small condo on sale for $8,400. That was the price of the condo.
Wow.
And that same condo a few years prior had sold for 150 grand. So the 2008 crash really decimated the real estate market in Michigan because Ford, GM, Chrysler were just hit so hard. And so I was like, okay, well, this is not a bad price. I can afford this. I made an offer for $4,000 and it was in foreclosure. The bank countered with $7,000. And then I said, how about we settle at $6 grand? And we were trying to go back and forth, and then they said, well, we have another offer on the table. I didn't want to lose this deal because I'd already looked at a few. So I was like, okay, well, I'll make an offer for $8 grand. So it was a bidding war. The other person offered less than $8 grand, so I got the condo. So I bought the condo for $8,000, but a little bit of work into it. It was in pretty good shape, and I got it rented out for $600 a month. Now I'm 19 years old. And I had no idea what I was doing, but all of a sudden, once I got it a little bit figured out, I was like, wait, this condo is paying me every single month, and I don't have to go and host a party. I don't got to go to work. I was working at Auntie Anne's Pretzels a little bit before that. I was like, I don't got to flip pretzels. I don't got to host this party. I don't got to work at a wedding, and it's paying me? Something doesn't make sense. Like, how come I was never told about this? Like, I was doing good in school. Like, I thought I was, like, smart. I thought I knew what I was doing. Turns out that there's a whole world of financial education that we're never taught. So now, the traditional system is go to school, study hard, get good grades, get a good job, climb the corporate ladder. And now I'm starting to realize, wait, there's a different system here that none of us are ever taught. where the goal isn't to just get a job and climb the corporate ladder. What wealthy people are doing is they're working to own the corporate ladder. And I was like, I didn't even know that you could do that. Because now if you can own investments, if you can own assets, you own things that are going to be paying you without you having to physically work. And this is what wealthy people are working for. Yet none of us are ever taught this. None of us are ever taught in school, how do you manage money? None of us are ever taught, how do you invest your money? None of us are ever taught, how do you build wealth? None of us are ever taught, how do you generate passive income? Yet wealthy people are teaching their kids this, and they're able to figure it out because they have that education. But for the majority of us, we're not taught this unless you're willing to go out of your way. Now YouTube has made it a lot more accessible, thank God.
Yeah.
But before YouTube, you had to go out of your way to read books and take classes, and it's tough. It's much harder to read a 300-page book than it is to watch a 10-minute YouTube video.
Yeah, definitely.
So that was a big turning factor for me, because that's when I started to realize that there's something different that you can do. So the second habit that we talk about, breaking away from that traditional system, asking the question why. And then the third thing is understanding what money is. And this is a very tough concept to understand. And I guess the best example that I can give of this is kind of going back to the traditional Indian culture, because in India, it's a very common thing that when somebody has extra cash, extra rupees, they want to convert these rupees to gold. It's why in India a lot of gold is transacted during weddings, because they want to give money, and the way that they do that is through gold, because inherently people understand that the rupee loses value. And I don't think that people understand the why or the ins and outs. It's just normal. That's just the culture. So people take the cash and they buy gold. And the reason why now we need to understand this here in our culture is because when we think of money, there's two different aspects to it. There's a currency, which means something that we use to buy and sell things in exchange, and then there is the store of value. And many of us assume that our money is supposed to be a store of value, is supposed to keep its worth. But now, because of the 2020 pandemic and the 2021 inflation and the 2022 inflation, we're seeing that, oh my God, my savings don't buy me as much. My earnings are not stretching as far. And so we're starting to really realize here that maybe my dollars don't hold the same.
Glesia. Bro, dito.
And so now it's understanding what is money. Well, there's two aspects. You have the currency aspect to buy and sell things, and then there's the store of value. What wealthy people understand is that money doesn't act as a very good store of value in today's day and age. So you want to take your money and convert it to something that is a store of value, or maybe something that's actually going to produce you income. This is like something that's so important for everyone to understand. And what's interesting is my first video to go viral was back in 2016. And in that video on my Minority Mindset channel, the reason why I think it went viral was because I talked about this whole idea of when you save all of your cash in the bank, you're becoming poorer each and every day, because back then inflation was between 2 and 3%, while your bank was paying you 0.5%. So I said was, look, you're losing 2 to 3% of your cash's value every single day, so you need to do something with this money, because your money is losing value. In 10 years, it's going to be worth less than it is today. Well, I didn't expect this 2020 pandemic to happen. I didn't expect all this craziness to happen. But now, here we are with inflation significantly higher than 2 to 3%. And now people are really starting to understand that, well, what is my money? And you have to be able to understand this, because this is the driving reason for why wealthy people don't want to save all their extra cash. You want to put your cash to work, which brings us now to the second side, right? What do wealthy people do? Well, the first thing, you have to understand how money plays a part in your life, like we discussed, right? How does money impact your life? That way, you don't go out and just start chasing money. Because one of the things that I realized was I started making way more money when I stopped chasing money. Because when you're chasing money, you're chasing something that's illusory. It's just fake. It's just, it doesn't even feel good. And you're not going to be able to put your full self into it. But then the second thing, on the more financial side, is what do you do with that money? And one of the things that I realized is what wealthy people want is this thing called equity. And this is where you have a lot of benefits in America because you can't do this in a lot of countries. So if you think about the traditional American dream, which is changing now, but the traditional American dream was you can work hard, buy a home, have a car. But the whole idea of buying a home, the reason why this was the American dream was because if you can buy a home, you can work over the years to pay it off, and now you have equity in your home, and now you have this sort of generational wealth that you can pass down. You have an asset. Well, the traditional American dream is now an American nightmare with the high cost of home ownership, with wages not keeping up with the cost of living. However, that doesn't mean that the American dream is dead. It's just changed. So what is this new idea of the American dream? Well, if you go back to the root core of equity, this is the real dream of wealth, and something that you can build for yourself and for your family and for generations is if you have equity. Now, how do I explain this? Well, if you think about any company, especially in a bigger company, it's easy to understand. There's two types of people that are involved. You have the workers and you have the owners. The workers are working for a salary. You go to work every single day, you get a paycheck, you're getting a salary. The owners of the company are not getting paid a salary. They're getting paid in profits. They want the company to make bigger profits so that they can make more money. Now, there is some overlap between the workers and the owners. If you are a founder, you're probably an owner as well. The CEO might have some ownership, and in some newer companies, you'll give equity to the workers as well. But when you have equity, you're getting the profits of a company. Everybody in America in this system needs to be a business owner if you want to become successful. Now, the one thing that I want to caveat that with is the majority of people should not try to start a business, and the majority of people should not try to operate a business. Now, you might say, Justin, you just said everybody should be a business owner. How does that make any sense? Well, you can own a business without working for the business, and now this is the question of what are you doing with your salary?
Support for this podcast is brought to you by Walden University. Ever catch yourself thinking, what if I could go after what I actually want and really make a difference? You're not alone, and that's exactly why I want to tell you about Walden University. For over 50 years, Walden has helped working adults like you get the W, with the knowledge and skills to build the future you want and make a difference where it matters most. If you've been waiting for the right moment, this is it. Head to waldenu.edu and take that first step. Walden University, set a course for change. Certified to operate by Chef. Cody Sanchez exposes a dangerous illusion. People looking wealthy while secretly 2/3 of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Our feeds show luxury, but the reality is struggle. Most people don't